Following up on my comments in a recent video titled The Rule of Law, in which I mentioned the connection to the ninth house. This is the typical, most straightforward connection to law in the astrological lexicon, Jupiter in the ninth house. However, I also believe whenever you talk about law as a set of rules and regulations we all follow so that we can maintain order and civility in a way we can all at least mostly agree, I have to bring Saturn into it. Saturn relates to our sense of duty as well as the limiting rules and boundaries that make life on Earth possible, literally. It is also the natural planet of government, and it is government that generally applies the laws to the presumed benefit of all. If we look at the US chart, we see Jupiter not only as ruler of the ascendant, but also in the sign of its exaltation and conjunct Venus. Although this will surely lead to excesses of all kinds through various hedonistic outlets in the domains of food, sex, and money, and foretells a nation that might get itself in trouble through too much debt, 8th house, it is nevertheless still a very strong Jupiter. So there you have Jupiter from the perspective of a defender of the rule of law. But then there is Saturn, also in the sign of its exaltation and a square to the Sun. On the one hand, we have the symbolism of Saturn in the 11th, a house of the people, rebelling against the king at the time. The Sun in the 8th, over excess taxation. 8th is the house of taxes. But once the US is formed, it lives with this square, which I would suggest becomes a symbol for the rule of law, Saturn, keeping the Sun in check, which I think is actually a very good thing. If you think I'm too optimistic and want to point out all the problems with a Saturn square, I'm not going to completely disagree. Saturn squares can be tough. And for example, hitting on the 8th house like this foretells there would be some tough financial times due to market crashes. But so far we have survived, and 244 years is nothing to sneeze at. And I've noticed that individuals with Saturn squares or oppositions at birth, provided they escape the depressive tendencies of Saturn on the dark side and connect to the work side of Saturn instead, tend to be very successful and high achieving. Why? Because they're willing to show up and work at it. If we look at the situation we're dealing with in 2020, what stands out to me most is how the rule of law has resisted the attempts of a wannabe dictator to destroy our democracy by undermining the rule of law itself. He tries, and he does get some wins here and there, but he mostly gets losses, especially the big ones. And I think this electoral process will indeed be one of the big ones. And if post-election the rule of law lands on him like a ton of bricks, then my faith in the rule of law will be strengthened some more. If so, I will clap for our exalted Jupiter in Cancer and bow to our likewise exalted Saturn in Libra.